Hello. Guess who's back? Back again. Mitch and
Mickey's back.
My friend.
yes, we are Pixel Pints. Hello. We are the only global podcast that talks about two things that we enjoy, which is good beer and video games. We're not here to promote drinking. Please drink responsibly. Any beers or breweries we are talking about aren't sponsoring us. Or and also please don't make tea using a cafetiere or coffee maker or in a microwave. What the hell is wrong with you people?
I used a steel percolator. I took out all the guts and used it like a kettle to heat water.
Okay, that's okay.
I mean, I don't
I'm,
heat my
I'm
tea in a microwave. I actually have
But I
a teapot.
did put the tea bags in while it was cold and let it warm up.
Oh my gosh.
you warm you. Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's okay. It's very American.
I'm glad
No,
we
no,
no longer.
no, it's very my mother. Like I grew up with my mom making tea as strong as coffee. And that's what I thought tea was. So like people's like, okay, dip the tea bag in, like leave it there for 3 minutes, take it out. That's tea. I'm like, what the bloody heck is this? This is not tea. I taste nothing. I get no oomph. So
Oh, I leave the tea bag in there the whole time, and then I'll even take the string and like wrap it around
squeeze,
and wring it out, and
squeeze
then
it
put it
out.
back in there.
Get all the delicious juices.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not as American as I may have thought you both were.
Well,
Well,
okay, for the record, I went to the UK for like a month, and so I was properly shown how to make tea, and I transferred it over to my Americanness.
I will give you guys clotted cream on scones, better than butter.
clotted cream is amazing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, though, I will say, well, sorry, before you go, I will say on my trip to the UK that I did, we went for an entire month. So we went London and then all the way up to Wales and Scotland. And so on that trip, there was only one tea that I was like, this is the best tea I've ever had in my life. Like the flavor profile is good. Like it was a fruit tea, but the actual fruit in it was very strong. Never found it. I've yet to find that tea. It's been like 10 years. Still looking
But
for it.
it is fruit tea, so who really cares? Yes, you can follow us on social media at pixel_pints on Twitter because I refuse to call it X because I'm not a fanboy of some rubber faced bastard, unlike our current Prime Minister who is up his crack at a meeting when he should be trying to manage the mess that his party's put the country in. Not that I'm getting political. And you can find us at Pixel Pints Pod on Instagram. Quickly go round. Mitch, how are things in LA?
LA is good. That
Succinct. I like it.
that's all.
Mikey, how are things in Pennsylvania?
They're good. We had our first night of 0 degrees C, and all of my plants went. So I had like elephant ears and morning glories and all sorts of stuff like that that had looked beautiful all of the autumn, and now they have all just collapsed like a flan in a cupboard. So
All
I
your
gotta go
hard
trim
work
them.
has gone to waste.
No, that just means I gotta dig them up, wash off the roots and the corms, put them in the basement to dry out over the winter, so that I can replant them in May.
That's too much like hard work. Why don't you
That's
just
so much hard work.
pave,
Yeah,
yeah, pave over the lot? That's the American thing to do, isn't it?
Oh,
Pave over the lot and buy a Jeep.
actually, Keith, I should have said things are no. I shouldn't have said things are good. I went to the Bears Chargers game, and oh god, that was horrible.
Well, if you're saying that's the
That's
American
SoFi.
way, like, isn't the British way going down to an Irish pub to drink Belgian beer, driven in a German car to go get Indian takeout to go home and complain about foreigners?
Yes, that is exactly being. Well, I'd say that's more being English.
Okay, the English way.
I
Yeah.
did see something that was the American way, which was the day before I went to the SoFi thing on that Sunday. On Saturday, I was in downtown LA for the first time to like just really explore down there, and there was a giant protest for Palestine and asking for a ceasefire. It was huge. I was like, wow, I've never seen like a legit giant protest before, because Midwest, there's not enough people to have like a legit protest, let's be honest. But in like LA, holy crap, there's plenty of people, and it was insane. And not in regards to like insane as like their viewpoints or anything like that. It's just very comprehending how many people can actually come together to be able to like say something.
Was there a massive?
You should have been in a Walk for Life.
Yeah,
those were huge.
Was there a massive sense of misrepresentation over the messaging that people were there appealing for peace, and not like was reported in the media here, where there were people calling for jihad against Israel, which was all made up? It was a load of bollocks, and there were Jewish people at said rally also campaigning for peace. Anyway, we can't fix the Middle East because apparently it's too complicated, when it's not really. All it needs is a few international leaders with some backbone to put some pressure on some rather tyrannical right-wing politicians in Israel. I don't know. I might have just fixed things. That's the politics out the way. Let's talk about beers.
All right. This is a preview of what I shall be having, because I am not having this right now. This is Hop and Frog, Horus the Quasher, Quadruple Imperial Stout, 15.7%.
I mean, though I'm not a crazy man of a stout, the name quality, that's hopping. That's hopping. That's if only they actually put hops in that beer and actually made sure it got in the title.
There very well may be.
Because if you're a froggin', you got to be hopping.
Yeah, like they've just kept this particular company just kept upping the ante with their ones, because they started with like Doris the Destroyer double IPA or a double Imperial Stout, and then like Trina the Threat, like then they do a triple and stuff like that, and so they finally did a quadruple, and I'm like, okay, this is getting ridiculous, but I have to see it through, much like Destiny.
Oh my god!
If it's already an Imperial, why do you need a triple Imperial?
Oh, I don't. I need a quadruple.
That's just bonkers. Anyway,
I mean, if anything,
the beer wine,
the Destiny one speaks volumes of your beer path. Because if you're sticking with Destiny 2 this far in, you might as well just go to the Quad Imperial.
Well, the like in actual, in all disclosure, whatever, I have not played Destiny for the past like 2 seasons. So like, I mean, I was like, I need more time with my family. I need more time to actually play games that people might actually want to hear about, like Lies of P and stuff like that. So, and I've enjoyed having my nights and weekends back.
You just
quit that job.
You ruined the bit, man. You ruined the bit. You should have just leaned into it hardcore, and you ruined it. Sorry,
but
Gabe,
I still might get the final shape to see it out, but that remains to be seen. I got almost a whole year to think whether or not I want to do that now.
Well, you've got the whole year to think if you do start playing Destiny again, of all the people whom they laid off.
Yeah.
This industry is not easy. It's not easy.
Anyway, back to me, my favourite topic. I'm drinking. So if you don't have a job in the games industry and you can find yourself some of these, try drinking yourself into a happier mood.
Responsibly.
Yeah, obviously. Come on. Electric Boogaloo from Tiny Rebel Brewing.
I love the name.
I really love the can art and the weird bear.
Oh, well, I don't like, oh my god. I'm not crazy about that bear. Is that the actual?
It reminds me.
Is that the brand?
Yeah, that's the brand mascot.
What's the brand called then?
Tiny Rebel.
Oh, okay, that would make more sense. I was like, that bear doesn't speak Electric Boogaloo to me.
No. But yeah, I've got it in my Beavertown glass, and it is a hazy IPA. It's lovely, really refreshing. Just the kind of beer that you'd want to drink on a cold, wet day near London to make you think of tropical climates. Mitch, I'm assuming you have some form of energy drink.
Yes, because it's super early in the morning and I'm really tired. I've not been sleeping well lately, so I'm gonna crash early tonight and sleep till tomorrow, and then wake up and
What
watch
has my
football.
has my son been climbing out of his crib and going and bothering you at 3 a.m. too?
Did you? At that case, you might as well just make him wear a ninja outfit just so he can like. But no, I'm just doing a normal Alani. So
Is there such a thing as a normal Alani? I think every Alani deserves some form of special status. Does it not?
so in the next episode, now that I actually can do it, so we had a, so our director, one of our directors for our technical artist team, Foreground specifically, he teaches at a school here in LA called Noman. It's basically a famous technical art school for doing like video games, animation. You could go into movies or video games or TV for for art, basically technical art. He does. He's very nice and he loves teaching. He does it so much that he, in his spare time during lunch, will do a course for anyone to take at the studio, which is super amazing. And we were making a car, so he had a model car done already. And what we had to do was apply textures and decals, and not just textures, but like is this going to be metal? Do I add a layer of scuff? Do I add a layer of dirt? Do I add a layer of scratches? So really getting into the finite details of like adding detail to a model that has already been pre-done. I did an Alani car. So it was a Alani sports race car. And the ground was this flavor, Cosmic Stardust. So next episode, I'll bring in the image because I can share it now because it's not on my work computer and we're allowed to share it because it has no assets from ND. They're all my own, except for the model. It's his. So, but I will share it on the show. But it's a sick car. I was pretty happy with it. So there's such thing as a normal Alani, and that's my car.
Nice.
Nice. Right. Shall we get into talking about some video games?
Heck yeah. It's been a bit, yo.
It has been. Talking of been a bit, that's probably the equivalent number of hours that I've spent playing Starfield. It's been a bit. So I can tell you exactly how long I've been playing it for. It's definitely over 50 hours. Like I said before we started, I've done a lot of side quests. I've done a lot of the side activities. I think I'm level 43 or 44 at the moment. And I've got one faction mission to complete, and then I've completed all the faction missions, and now I'm just mainlining the story. And somehow this gigantic galaxy-spanning game feels really small. It would be my main issue with it. I don't mind the story. I quite like some of the faction storylines. There's nothing mind-blowing in any of them. But I do have two things that I would like to quote-unquote fix with the game. And one of them Mitch has already heard because we talked about it a bit when Mitch was streaming his 37 hours of Starfield, painfully. 38.
And I can tell you how many hours I played Starfield.
38, exactly. Yeah. And not a minute longer. So the main issue I have is around the core game design. And I know a lot of people have brought up the fact that you've got this giant galaxy map that you can go absolutely anywhere, except you can't because there's limitations on where you can go, and some of it's level gated, so if you're below a certain level you can't go anywhere, which I think would be, what's the point of saying you can go anywhere when you can't? So I think Todd Howard did a Todd Howard on this one. Todd's gonna Todd. But the core game design, it got me thinking, so why did you take time for people to put so much effort into modeling certain elements and creating the gameplay mechanics that you can pick up pens from every fucking desk all over every fucking planet, that have no value at all other than your ability to do it and say, oh look, I can pick up a pen or a folder or any of the junk. And there's no way you'd think they'd learn from games like Diablo, where you can just mark stuff as junk, and as soon as you find a vendor, you can just auto sell all of your junk. Can't do that. You've got to go through and sell all this shit individually. But it got me thinking, because Matt was saying, well, if you need to be careful about breaking the economy. No, you're coming about that the wrong way round. You need to have started about, what is the gameplay reason for us to have this in the first place? And if the gameplay reason that you have this in is because it's always been in a Bethesda game, then you need to fundamentally think about how you design your games and what design principles you want to approach with. And I was having a bit of this conversation with someone online and said, well, have you ever worked in video games? To which I said, no. So, well, how do you know how to make games then? It's like, I don't need to know how to build a video game or an engine to understand principles of design mechanics. I don't need to know that. I've worked on projects worth millions of pounds. I understand how project management works. I understand that your design principles at the start of a project influence your choices throughout that project. And I upset some people on the chat. Let's just say that.
I think like you're right on that point. I think the one thing I would have maybe adjusted is, like, if they wanted to leave it like that, they can. It's not smart, in my opinion. However, then give me an option to toggle a button where it won't let me pick up useless items. Where if I walk by an item and it's considered junk, or has a tag internally tagged as junk, like it's just not worth anything, or it's not going to progress a mission of any kind, it would not register as pick-upable.
Yeah,
and I think that also would help. Sorry, but I think it also would help in the context of, there's so much in this space, and there are times where you pick up something, and it does cause you to do another side quest, and sometimes you don't know you even have it or how you got it, or like I was just like randomly, I was like, how did I even get this mission in the first place? And then I looked it up, and they go, oh, it's because you picked up this item in this location. I was like, well, I didn't really notice that. If I could pick up less items, the significance of the item I picked up probably be more significant. But that's just me.
Or if it flags up in some way, so that in the same way that they have the little red icon next to something that it's a warning to say that you're going to steal this, and they've got a yellow icon to say that this is contraband. Why can't you have some other marker to say that this is going to contribute to a new mission, or the mission objective that you're currently on that's not that blue bloody hexagon in the way?
I think the thing is, though, it doesn't unlock until you actually read it. So, like, it wasn't until I actually read the item that it actually unlocked the mission, which makes sense. But yeah,
I just find it annoying. Obviously, all the apologists will be saying, "Oh, that's your fault for not reading everything." It's like, no, fuck off. I don't, as much as Matt will apologise for the shit that Bethesda are doing because he went to a library in Skyrim and spent hours reading books in a library. That's not a fun game mechanic to me. The other thing that I would fundamentally change about the game is the progression system. I got onto this with Matt when you were streaming and saying, I feel like they've built in a version of an RPG grind that I don't like. So as you unlock abilities, you then need to rank them up by doing activities. Some of them are completely pain in the arse, and some of them are really, really long. So I ranked up the skill that you get improved health returns from using med packs and things like that. Once you rank that up, it says use 20. The next one's use 50. The next one's use 100. I'm thinking, why are you doing this to people? So there's the one way that I would have fixed, quote unquote, This is by saying if you unlock a skill, you can unlock the ranks just by through gameplay, but it will take you a lot longer. But if you particularly like this skill and want to rank it up more quickly, you can spend skill points in it. Because I wouldn't be in a situation that I am in now, where I'm having to bank my skill points as I rank up, because I need a security skill to be at a certain level to unlock computers and doors, because I can't complete the goddamn faction quest because my security level was too low. So now I have to go off and do a load of other stuff, not the thing that I wanted to do. And here's where the apologists were coming. Is like, oh, but that's part of the game. It's a role-playing game. So, no. I fundamentally think that
you don't have to be good at medical care, or to get good at medical care, you don't have to repair your own amputated limb 7 times to know how to use a tourniquet, how to administer a needle. Like, you don't have to have been shot and cleansed your own bullet wounds just to know that you can patch up a bullet wound. Like, there are plenty of skills that you don't have to do it to that extent.
I'd also argue, like, my example, and I was agreeing with you, Keith, on this one, where it's like the lock picking. For me, it was like, if I increase the skill, the lock picking should be easier, and then just make it as difficult as possible. Give you the least amount of chances to succeed, but you still have a chance instead of no chance at all. Like, that's what I would prefer.
Real quick, I wanted to ask this before I forgot. Because you've been doing so many side quests and stuff like that, you've ingested a plethora of the content in the game, and now you're beelining the main story. Does it still feel difficult or anything like that? Like, do you feel over leveled or over geared or overpowered?
So there is, I don't, the gear is, no, I'm not overpowered in terms of my gear, because I'm still using the stuff that I got very early on in the game, because it's just better than anything else that I found.
You didn't go get the mantis suit or whatever?
Yeah, that's what I'm using. I'm still using it. So I'm basically playing the entire game just using that. In terms of some things around the progression, so one of the initial traits that I unlocked was scientist, so it already gave me a point in scanning. And then I realized quite soon afterwards that scanning is fucking pointless. So one thing that I changed as well is, if you unlock a trait early on, the bonus that you get for that isn't that real in terms of the game. At least this is what I've got from unlocking scanning early. So what I found myself doing was running around scanning stuff and realizing that I was getting kind of 20 XP. And if you completely explore a planet and survey everything, you get 100 bonus XP.
It's not a lot.
So it's not a lot. Do you know what's quicker to do? Scan all the animals and then kill them all. So I'm meant to be...
So document the species and then eradicate it from the planet. That's the way to do it.
And then specieside.
So I'm meant to be playing as a xenobiologist who scans all of the fauna and then immediately kills all of the larger animals, because they're worth more XP dead than they are being scanned.
It's the buffalo hides, man. It's the buffalo hides.
If I'm gonna get 20 XP for scanning 10 animals, or I can get 45 XP for killing each one, what am I going to do to try and level up my character?
Kill them all.
So, yeah, exactly. Matt's talking about my idea about not picking up everything, saying, oh, you need to be careful about balancing the economy. Well, what about balancing the XP gains?
Well, I mean, I think a balance issue is a problem throughout the title. Like I mean, that is an issue. You know, my bounty thing was a huge issue, where it's, once you get a bounty and you can't afford to pay it, what do you do as the player? Like, there is no option as a reset button. Like, in my brain, I was just like, you had an easy out by saying, oh, if you do the side quest with that faction, they'll forgive your debt. Yeah. But no, I have to pay my debt before I can go work for them. And I tried for my last, like, 5 hours because I did all the side quests I could do, all the main ones. And I tried for 5 hours to earn enough money to pay off my debt. But the problem is you have to keep going to planets where they are there, and you have to kill them because literally
they'll shoot on sight.
Well, they shoot on sight, but the other problem is you can't leave the zone until you are out of combat. How do you get out of combat if you don't kill them? But then you add your bounty. It's like, it's just not a, it's that is not, there is an issue in this title where I feel like they had a bunch of ideas. However, I don't know if it was the crew that was testing this title and just didn't see these loopholes, because some of these loopholes are pretty massive. Like, this is how I would have played the game if I was testing it myself. Sorry.
A loophole is generally considered like a positive, like a thing that could be abused positively.
I think Mitch meant
what is the negative
Oh, pitfall.
of a loophole?
Yeah, pitfall.
There we go. Pitfall. Yeah.
So one thing that I would say is that the feeling of grandiose but very small, a small g grandiose, is when I realised, because this is what I do with most RPGs, is I ignore as much of the main quest as possible until basically that's the only thing I have left to do. Or if I have to do a main quest mission to progress other stuff. When you first start going and looking for these artifacts, I do find it very confusing that this is meant to be, we're an advanced spacefaring civilization who didn't discover these weird artifacts that were on one planet, on one system, half a light year away. So it's almost, my brain's thinking from a kind of Star Trek sense. It's not as if you've gone to some far-flung region of the galaxy to find this weird shit. No, it's just there. It was like me walking around the corner and finding that there's the pub has suddenly disappeared, but I'd just ignore it for God knows how long. And then someone says, "Oh, do you realise that the pub's gone?" I was like, "Oh, I never noticed. I've only walked past it every fucking day." It's really, what's it called, ludonarrative dissonance. I find it hard. The reason I'm still playing the game is, one, because I want to finish it. Two, I'm glad I've not spent 70 quid or £60, however much it was, and I've only paid, what would it be, £15 for 50 hours worth of content so far. And like I said to Mikey beforehand, it's a nice change of pace from playing other things that I've been playing, which is Evan, Streets of Rage 4, and Apex Legends. So it is a nice change, and the AI is supremely stupid. So if you've got a set of enemies, they will some of them will just jump up and down from platform to platform over and over again, and then sometimes they might turn around and try and shoot at you, sometimes they might not. Hi, Don. How's it going?
Well, your companion AI is just as worse. Like, I mean, I have evidence that literally the stealth companion breaks you out of stealth. Like, if anything, your companion should default never break you out of stealth unless you are broken out of stealth yourself. Like, that's just basics of video game companions. Like, every game, we can go all the way back to The Last of Us 1 on the PS3. Ellie does not break you out of stealth, even though it looks egregiously annoying that she looks like she has been spotted.
Running around.
Yeah, but she does not break the player out of stealth. Why? Because that's not in your control. And that is not what you want as the player. You as the player should decide whether you are in or out of stealth. That is under your control, not your freaking companions. Who thought of that? And it's a
lot of these, like you said, are solved problems.
Yeah, we solved 10 years ago.
They're solved in other games. I don't understand why Bethesda just insist on doing it. And this comes back to something that I wanted to say, is that Matt's point is, well, it's a Bethesda game, and Bethesda make Bethesda games. Well, yeah, but Guerrilla Games made Horizon Zero Dawn. If by that logic they would have just continued to make Killzone over and over and over again, It's within the studio's gift to say no, let's do something different. And even if it's not as drastic a change from Killzone to Horizon Zero Dawn, but there are things that they could do that don't take that feel of a Bethesda game away, but just make it a bit different.
Well, let me approach this in this way for you, Keith, because you're just like, why are they doing the things, and why are they doing things that we solved 10 years ago? I think this is what happened with this specific title is, when you make an engine and you make a game on that engine, you have a certain tool set that's already built in the game. And a lot of the times, you make the first game, it's successful. You make the second game, you're going to keep a lot of the same things you did before, and you're going to build upon what you already did, which mostly is a lot of new things and maybe adjusting some of the stuff you already did. For years, Bethesda's been using the same engine. Yeah. And I feel as if every iteration of every title, they've been acclaimed to be good. So many of the things they'd feel like they didn't need to iterate on because they're like, oh, we just need to make new things now. Make new things for this next title, new things for the next title. But they're not really going back and fixing the original things where, we solved this 10 years ago because at the time, 10 years ago when it was made, it was seen as acceptable. But as they've gone through the years, they haven't fixed those things to be up to today's standard. And now it shows even more because to my knowledge, they're using the same engine. So like a lot of this AI is probably the same AI that it was from all the way back like 2 titles ago.
And there's a really funny thing about the companions, other than pretty much all of them being really annoying.
Yeah. Do you have a second to talk? Do you have a second to talk for?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. You could be in the middle of a firefight and then suddenly you've killed all the enemies, and literally straight away afterwards, when you have a second, can we talk? What? I've just murdered 50 people.
Can I get a spot on your dance card? Because we really got to talk.
It's so it made me think of what happened in the for the companion missions in Mass Effect, where if there was a period of downtime, a companion would come to you and say, when you've got a moment, can we talk? But then that would be it. It's then down to you to instigate going to them. Whereas this...
And it would appear in your UI to say, like, hey, talk to so-and-so, like,
In this, it's constant. Literally, you enter an area loading screen. If you've got a moment, can we talk? You walk down, you talk to someone else as part of a mission. Once you finish that conversation, it's when you've got a moment, can we talk? You go to your next mission objective, which may cause you to go through some doors loading screen.
You finally talked to Dan. Oh, I just wanted to tell you, like, we really got to look into our Starship's extended warranty.
Well, no, the crazy thing is if you wait long enough, well, okay, 2 things. One, I feel as if the people that were testing this title literally just talked to them instantly as soon as they said, do we need to talk? And not really tested, hey, what if I don't want to talk to any of the characters? But anyway, or they did and they just didn't have enough time to fix the problem. However, the element that I ran into was I waited so long to talk to him that when I talked to him, I had to talk to him about 3 times. Each time it was like a different personality. He instantly was like, hey, I really appreciate what you did back there. And then he just goes, next one I talked to him goes, in a row. This is like me clicking X to talk to him in a row, or A, whatever the button is. And then he just goes, the next one, he's like, I'm really disappointed in you, what you did back there. And I was like, you just said I did a great job. Now you're just pissed at me? Oh, hey, I just appreciate you saving me back there. I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, what?
Bottled up emotions.
Yeah, did he have Santa list of complaints and positivities to give to me and just wanted to pull out the list?
Yeah, this game could have been so much more, or it could have felt so much more. I think that's the thing, and if it's a feeling thing, that's my problem. But I don't think all of it is me just having negative thoughts and feelings about the game. I feel like I'm feeling that way because of stuff that's in there. Like all the vendors are so snarky. Why?
Especially when you're getting shot at.
Have you ever been to a New York bodega?
I don't know if they modelled all the vendors on multiple planets after particularly snarky bodega owners.
Mike, did you catch the bug I got in the middle of the stream with the vendor and getting shot at the same time.
Oh no, I didn't see that. What happened?
So I went to like it was Keith. I think it was like during a regular episode we were doing, and I just went to go to a vendor. My warrant level in that area is at top notch, so I'm gonna get shoot at on sight. But usually, if I go to the vendor, I don't get shot at because like they're inside. Well, I was talking to the vendor, and I was getting ready to like hit the button of like I want to sell things. Before that happened, a guy from behind her starts shooting at me and going like, kill him. And then the camera is still panned on her like a conversation, because that's how the camera does it, like pans into the character.
Yeah.
She starts running around. The camera's following her. She's jumping over things. She's running around. She won't talk to me, and it stays stuck on it. Like I can't get out of the conversation because it needs her to say her. But then she goes completely out of the room. The camera follows till where I'm just facing a wall where she's out of the room. She runs back in, and then she says, "Can we wrap this up pretty quick? I got a lot of things to do." And then just runs back and forth. It's just like, whoa. So I basically had to stand there.
All the time Mitch is getting shot.
Yep, I had to stand there until I died and then try again.
That's hilarious.
But
like it would have been hilarious if like you go to the vendor and the vendor pulls out a shotgun.
Yeah, that's
hey. Hey, I've seen you on some wanted holographic posters.
Yeah,
but we can do business.
It was something like that. Where is it at that point? Because there's the one faction mission where you get recruited by the United Colonies to infiltrate the space pirates, and I don't know if Mitch had already done those missions by this point. Because
probably.
Yeah, if you hadn't have done those missions, you would have just gone to space jail, and then you would have been sent off to do that faction mission, no matter how big your bounty was. Because to instigate that, you can either just fly to this spaceship and say, I want to join this undercover mission to kill all the space pirates, or not, depending on what choice you make. Or you can do something as simple as steal a foam cup from somewhere in front of a security guard. So you can murder a load of people, get arrested, go do secret mission, or you can steal a foam cup. You're on mute, mate.
You're on mute.
But at least is it a really well insulated foam cup? I mean, space can be cold.
No. What they wanted to do is show you could pick up anything.
Yeah.
It was trying to show out the core mechanic of picking up everything is extremely important. Every item.
Yeah. Being able to pick up everything. It's the thing that really fucks me off about that is you could have a pen and a folder next to something that you want to pick up. And will it focus on the thing that you want to pick up? No, you fucking won't. So you end up pressing the button to pick up the thing you want, and it said, you've added a folder.
At least you can drop it. But I'm thinking this episode, since Mike wants to talk about Liza P, we could just talk about what we've been playing. So Keith, to wrap you up, because we got to wrap you up. What's your score on this thing so far? Out of 5 or 10?
This is a distinctly average game. Of the 50 hours I've played, I've probably played, quote unquote, I know, maybe 2-3 hours of loading screens. The loading screens.
I wonder how much it loads on console. I've only played PC, which loads pretty quickly, but still, it loads a lot.
It must be leveraging the power of the Series X to load all those loading screens. This is a 3 out of 5 at best. This is on the IGN 7 to 10 scale. This is a 7. Any of the outlets who gave this any more than a 7, I've got no idea what you're thinking.
I'd agree with you too. I think it's just like it's not bad. It's not great. It's not good. It's just okay. It's like I think the most disappointing thing is this game, rudimentary, is literally fast traveling to combat. That's literally what this game is. It's fast travel here because the space exploration means nothing in regards to the driving the spaceship, and the fact that I could also Now, this is the right word, loophole my bounty, my warrant level, made absolutely no sense in context of like what my character's supposed to be doing. So it pulled me out of the universe instantly by saying, oh, if I fly to outside the planet and they scan my stuff for contraband and they see I have a warrant, they're going to shoot me on sight in space. However, if I fast travel to the planet, I bypass all that, which makes no sense because it's like, aren't I supposed to be scanned for contraband as I'm going into the planet fast traveling? But anyway, I digress.
The whole contraband system I hate as well. There should be ways around that rather than
smugglers holds.
Yeah, exactly. But
Smugglers
there's certain ships that you can steal or buy that have got those. If you do the faction missions for the Crimson Fleet, who are the space pirates, you can buy a scanner jammer, slammer, whammer, boomba. Whammaling a ding dong, and you attach that to your ship, and then if you've got contraband on it, the scans don't show the contraband. But
basically, in a nutshell, for me, it's like if this game was made 10 years ago, it'd be a great game because that was the standard 10 years ago. We are not 10 years ago. We are in 2023.
This is not No Man's Skyrim. That is not that. It is Skyrim in space with loading screens.
It's Skyrim in space with all the mechanics from Skyrim in space. Like no quality of life on this title at all. Like nothing to make you feel like it's a 2023 game, except maybe it looks nice.
Ish, depending on what camera angle it is.
So someone gave a really good example of why Starfield feels off and empty, and what he did is he used an illustration he brought up the Witcher 3 map, and he brought up and here's what he did. He said, here are 3 points of interest, and the average time between them is about 40 seconds if you beeline between these points of interest. Gotcha. Here's a camp, here's a question mark, here's like the entrance to like a cave or like a ghoul or like a night craven or something like that. And just here, there's about 40 seconds. In 40 seconds, you could find any one of these 3.
Something to do, what you mean.
Yeah, something to do within those 40 seconds. If you beeline it, like you can spend more time or whatever, like exploring and picking up herbs, whatever.
Yeah.
But in Starfield, he's like, all right, the average time between interesting things is 3.5 minutes.
That's not wrong.
And so
that's a good example.
Yeah, and he shows, he's like, this is how far you would have to travel in The Witcher, and it's like from White Rose all the way up to one of the main cities, like in a beeline. He's like, that is your average time in Starfield between interesting things to do. And he's like, that's why it feels so empty. He's like, because like gamers are used to, or people who play video games are used to having something of interest X amount of seconds. And Starfield, it's quadruple or quintuple that amount of time between interesting things.
And I could also say, I was just to add to your point, I think also the interesting thing is the difference also is instead of traveling in the world, you're really just going through a bunch of loading screens, which is very different. It's a jarring, it takes you out of the world and back in the world, out of the world, back in the world, where you never feel like, oh, I just went from here to here.
Everything seems compartmentalized.
Yeah, he's like either through loading screens, or if you're like if you're traveling from a point of interest directly to the closest next point of interest manually, he's like, it still takes like 3.5 minutes to get to an interesting thing, and that's why it feels so empty. He's like, and if you work within that, maybe you can have a better time or something like that. But this is why when you're comparing it to other games roughly in the genre of like time spent, level of engagement, like picking up stuff, doing stuff, that's why it feels so empty, because the time between stuff to do is just so um, extrapolated. So, and I was
Yes.
like, okay, that makes sense. That was a good example. I like that. Thank you.
I think that's a neat summation. I was trying to think of a decent segue into how to link that to Lies of P, but I can't. So, Mikey, would you like to tell us about your experience with Lies of P?
Yes, I would.
And this isn't just about Mikey saying he's got I was going to say 12-inch dildo or something like that.
I was going to say this isn't about me cheating on my drug test.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Okay. There you go. I was
Was that
confused
really
on where you
your
guys were
urine?
going with this. I was like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, oh, the game title, Lies of P.
Is that really your urine, sir?
Well, because I don't see the Lies of P as like the actual letter P, because that's what we're told.
Yes.
It's not actually the letter
Yeah.
P. And so like I don't
Yeah.
think of that. Doesn't correlate.
It's the Korean symbol for blood or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lies of Korean blood. Um,
Bless you.
so
For our audio listeners of why there was a gap.
um, so Lies of P is a game by NeoWiz, I believe is the developer, not the publisher. Um, and they are a Korean team who, to my knowledge, I don't know any other game that they have done. If they have done another game, I think this is only their second one. But regardless,
I'll find it. Don't worry.
it is most definitely a Souls-like, but it comes in as the very first effective Bloodborne-like, which is something that really has not come across. And I know Matt himself like bounced off of it for a lot of different reasons, but there's something about Lies of P and that engaged me from the beginning, and I think my initial interest before playing stemmed from my like of the American McGee Alice games. I don't know if any of you played them, or at least you've at least seen them. They
None
were
of them have not played.
yeah. Those games were uh, twisted takes on actually already twisted fairy tales. If you've actually ever read the books, there's a lot of weird stuff in there. And if you play the game without having
As you're sneezing, they did make a bless you. Um, or that's a cough. Anyway, just so you're aware, this was their second title. Their first title was Bless Unleashed, which was
okay,
a Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Microsoft Windows game.
okay, I'm
And
unfamiliar with
sponsored by published by Bandai Namco.
okay. But this game itself, sometimes heavy-handedly, sometimes very light-handedly, goes through and tries to incorporate as much of the characters, if not the mythos so far of Pinocchio, into its story. And the Pinocchio part is kind of like a window dressing, not a window dressing, but it's like a flavor that is added to the story that's going on there, because it's not like, oh, a twisted take on what happened in the story, but it's more like, okay, this motif, a lot of these themes and motifs apply very heavily and very well to the story that they've built here. And this game is very linear. It at one point in the game, it appears you have a choice of going to 3 different locations, but you actually don't. You do have to progress through them in a set order. And I know maybe I would feel different about this if I played this game at a different time, like either next year or previous years. But I actually, especially for a Souls-like game, was refreshingly appreciative of a linear Souls experience, because, and it may have had just to do with me not having as much time to just dork around like I would have in years past. because your Dark Souls 1, your Dark Souls 2, your Bloodborne, all of those games, like they do have kind of a canon progression, but you definitely can go off the beaten path. You definitely can do sequence breaks. Well, in Dark Souls, it wouldn't even really be a sequence break because you can just go do it. It's just everything's really hard. You can immediately turn around and go to the catacombs, but you will get your bottom handed to you several times, and then you'll think better of it and go off and do something a little less challenging. But Liza P does railroad you into a specific path, but this is the first time. Okay, not the first time, but they put such care and detail into all the locations that you were railroaded through that I didn't care that I was being led by the nose. I didn't mean that pun, but it came out. That I was being led by the nose through these different locations, because they realize them so well. They start you in this like abandoned, completely wrecked out, full of terror and destruction train station, and you're trying to fight your way to this hotel, and then from the hotel to City Hall, and then once you go to City Hall, you get back, you get to go somewhere else. You get to go liberate a factory. From the factory, you go down into a swamp, and from a swamp, you get an item that allows you to go back through another section, the Posh District, and through the Posh District, you go to this great exhibition, the very reminiscent of like your late 1800s, early 1900s, like World's Fair, where like everyone brings their inventions and all the new stuff or whatever. And each of these locations, they are you don't feel like, oh, I saw that before. And occasionally you get repeat enemies, but almost every area they're bringing in new enemy variety, new different ways, new different things that you're like, what the bloody heck is that? And I will tell you that the worst enemy in the game is this. It's I don't know. I'll call it a unique boss or a unique enemy because once you kill it, it doesn't respawn. But it's these like very tall like jesters with like these things that they throw at you, and they have the ability to like grapple you like with a grapple hook and stuff like that. But the game itself just felt like the first good foray into a Bloodborne like, and NeoWiz to do a TLDR. Hold on, Jack. What are you brrring?
The joys of parenting whilst podcasting.
Yeah. The multitasking at its finest. Parent of the year.
Because one thing I was going to ask you, Mikey, did you dabble in Steel Rising?
I did not. Was Steel Rising on Game Pass?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I think at the time I was playing something else, and I'm like, maybe I'll get around to trying this. And then by the time everyone or I was ready to play it, people were like, this is what it is. It's a 7.
It's a spiders game.
Yeah, it's spiders or whatever. Like next one for sure. Next one for sure. Spiders will nail it. So I'm like, okay.
You finished Liza P, right, all the way?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
yes, I did.
So I do have a question on that regard too. So like, obviously we're gonna compare it to Bloodborne because Elden Ring's a fully open world game.
Correct.
How big is Liza P in compares to like Bloodborne's map? Even though you can't things aren't going around and interconnecting to make things seem a lot bigger, but in comparison,
no, it is. That's actually part of but the progression is fairly linear, but the way things wrap around, you end up back at the hotel through an elevator, through the slums poor district that you're like, what the heck? I'm here.
Okay, that's literally like Bloodborne.
So yes, so it does wrap around. Actually, in a point that that Bloodborne, or maybe a point above for Liza P, in that your core is the hunter's dream, and that's always a world apart. And yes, you can find an hunter's workshop
Yeah.
out in the world, but you're always like coming back here, and that's like its own place. Whereas the hotel is connected to all these different places, and so very much like Firelink Shrine, you find
So like there's a door at each of the, like, if you're in the hotel, you can literally go that way, it's going to go to one huge end of the map. You can go that way, it's going to go one huge end of the map. You can go that way, it's going to go to one huge end of the map.
Like to the south is where you initially came through. Eventually, because of a trigger in the story, just the very beginning section becomes locked off to you, but not completely. Like you actually end up after like 3/4 of the game back exactly where you began the game, like but now things have changed, like an earthquake has happened and stuff like that. So your two original like bonfires, you can't warp to those anymore, but you do have other bonfires that you've now unlocked that would get you to those same areas. They're just not in exactly the same place
because they all interconnect. Could you like go in, it's like, say the first spot's blocked, could you go to the second spot, loop all the way back around, and then see what happened to your first spot, like from the other side, because you looped all the way around?
Well, here I'll put it this way: the first spot with the two bonfires is the train station.
Yeah.
And on your warp points, it's kind of categorized basically by chapters, like 1 through 11. And so at a certain point in the game, chapter or like the stuff from chapter 1 actually gets X'd out. But if you warp to the bonfires or the star whatever, I can't even remember that. I played so much, the star points or whatever, the bonfires. If you go to the ones in chapter 8, you're in the area where chapter 1 was.
Gotcha.
So like because you come back to the train station, but a earthquake has happened and now it's all full of monsters and stuff like that.
So basically it's the same area, they just like name it differently because because of the chapter and something happened in the story that changed the environment around it.
Correct.
Okay. Makes sense.
So you are not actually locked out of any area of the game. It's just the original way you got there
is
you
not
can't
accessible, but you can still bonfire there. Gotcha. Okay.
Correct.
Makes sense.
You can bonfire to a place very near there and then walk to the place where the bonfire would have been.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. Interesting.
So it's one thing I was going to say is, how did you feel about the combat mix of weapons? Because the one thing that I did hear, I think I was listening to the Podquisition when they were talking about it. I said Steph was saying that she felt like some of the weapons that the game gave you didn't really work as well as maybe they'd intended. I don't know why they may have said that in that way, because I haven't played the game. Because isn't there a mix of light and heavy and
hilt
ones with
hilt attacks that you can because when you split weapons you can like sorry go ahead.
There's a mix, like there's more than just like 3 different types. There's your very well, there's 3 different scalings, I guess I'll put it, like motivity, which is strength, finesse, technique, which is agility, and then advance, which is magic, like tech, magic, or whatever like that. So those are your 3 main scalings, and those are all based on the different handles. And here's my only complaint so far, is because when I did my playthrough, I went an advanced playthrough. So like, meaning I'm going fire, electricity, acid, like I'm going for all the status effect type stuff. And this is my only like full criticism of the game. There is not a single, because you know how like in Souls games, like you get like the soul of Idris Elba or something like that, and you can trade it in for like a boss weapon or something like that. Like at different vendors, like that very specific soul, you can use it to make or buy a boss weapon. In Lies of P, there was not a single boss weapon that was an advanced scaling boss weapon. So they were all either motivity or technique, so like strength or finesse based ones. And so at least they had.
You've just reminded me what the point that they were making is. They wanted to do a technique build, but all of the weapons that were decent that they could find were all either magic or heavy.
Yeah, strength or magic ones.
So they couldn't. It was almost like the game was channeling them the way they didn't want to play.
Yeah, I can feel that. I would say that's the same if you wanted to go advanced, except in the first 3 or 4 areas, you get two of the most effective, if not the most fun, two of the most effective elemental weapons in the game, right off the bat. But later you do get handles that are better for those weapons.
Are you able to at least upgrade them as you go so they feel applicable compared to the ones that you could buy?
Yes, I found some wonderful regular weapons. I didn't get to use any boss weapons in my playthrough because none of them were advanced scaling. So I'm like, well, everything I put my points into, so I rotated between by the end of it, I had about 5 weapons that I rotated through depending on my needs, which actually might still be more than a normal person would do. Maybe they would only have 1 or 2. Like if they were going strength or agility, they might have just 2 different ones, like a faster one for very persnickety enemies and a heavy hitting one that for slower enemies. That might be all that they use, or they find something new and then they just abandon their old one. But for me, like I kind of brought a lot of my early weapons through and then mixed in a bunch of new ones. So there was only one weapon that I replaced entirely, because you can get very early, like in the second area, like the electric coil stick, very good electric damage weapon, and then that was only one of 2 electric weapons that I found. Actually, technically there's other ones, but you have to use the special arts to make them electric. But once I got to the second electric weapon, I replaced the first one entirely, and I never used it again. But the other ones, both the fire and the multiple acid ones that I found, I used for different situations, like in the rest of the game. But two steps point. I think part of it is that sometimes it feels like the move set you want is on the wrong handle.
Okay.
So there might be, because there are plenty of handles that have good agility scaling, but they might be all just all only stab, where you want or like, and maybe Steph wanted a like slash smash like move set or whatever, and so there were a couple of, I was disappointed, there were a couple of handles that I found later that had really good, they were some of the best advanced scaling, but their moveset was ass. So I'm like, I hate this moveset. Like because it's like a giant handle, like 4 feet long or whatever, like for really slow, ponderous attacks. I'm like, you got the right scaling, but I hate your moveset, so I'm going back to this old one that I have. So, so you brought that up, but all the boss weapons. Oh my goodness! If I had been going a strength or an agility build, those are some of the coolest weapons I have seen. In video games. Like some of the way the boss weapons work to me rival the coolness of a lot of the Bloodborne weapons. And definitely are cooler than most of the weapons you get in like an Elden Ring and stuff like that. Like there are cool weapons and stuff, but like the Puppet Ripper, it's like this cane that's like 6 feet tall with a kind of like a hook scythe coming off of it, and so you're doing a lot of attacks like that. But then when you use the Fable art, a giant chain extends and you are spinning around, and you are spinning this hook of death in this giant wave of stuff. I'm like, and then you like reach out and hook things. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is awesome. The only caveat is that boss weapons you can't disassemble to mix parts with regular weapons. So a boss weapon is like a bespoke set, and I'm like, okay,
so how does the inventory management work on that then? So I'm assuming you can't wander around with all the boss weapons that you've had throughout the game.
Actually, you can wander around with all of them. Like there is no backpack weight.
Okay.
There's equip weight.
See, that's definitely not a Bethesda game then.
Yeah. There is I mean, the only reason I threw a whole bunch of stuff in storage was because I found myself in a couple of boss fights, actually mid fight, switching to, because advanced switch depending on what you're fighting, and there's some bosses that kind of like change nature mid fight, and so I found myself switching from like my fire axe to my like electric circular saw mid fight, because I'm like, you're definitely a puppet now, or you're definitely a monster now, and so swapping back, and so I put all of my unused weapons in storage so that I could just very quickly find the one that I wanted and swap out, because
Mikey, away from the fundamentals of how you play the game, what's the point? Why are you there, and why are you fighting automatons?
Do you care about spoilers?
Well, spoiler warning.
Go for it.
Which is more than you'll get from the latest game face on Alan Wake, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, holy cow, that ruined the twist.
I wasn't paying that much attention during the Alan Wake part, so it probably would still be a surprise to me. Maybe, I don't know. But the initial goal of why you're there is you were woken up and as a puppet, and you are hearing a voice like telepathed to you, giving you instructions. It is that game's embodiment of the Blue Fairy from the story. Her name is Sophia. You think that you meet her over at the hotel, but she's giving you instructions of that, like a puppet frenzy has taken crop, like we don't know why. They have like these 4 laws, like they must always obey their master, like never harm humans. Asimov stuff, RoboCop, preserve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law. And so that's like the initial thing is like, well, we're just trying to stop what's going on here. The puppets are going nuts. Go shut down the factory so that they can't reinforce. But as you progress, then you find like a different subplot. You're like, okay, this is what was happening to the puppets, but now people, there's something that's affecting people, and there's like a petrification disease. So puppets have their own problem, the frenzy, and living beings have the petrification disease. That's a different thing. And they're like, are they different? Are they connected? And you are trying to unravel the mysteries of why did these things start, like the petrification disease. You're like trying to find a cure because one of the people that you meet in the hotel is afflicted, and you would like to help her. That's part of it. And the puppet frenzy is just like, puppets are going nuts. They're killing everyone. The city's gone.
So is there a thing between? Is there a distinction then? There's kind of puppets have gone mad. Don't try and cure them. You need to kill them all and stop them from going on their murderous rampages. Whereas the people are being petrified, but we need to heal them.
No, it's only the one. Like there's one person who has the petrification disease on the side of her face. You probably have seen it.
Smells a lot like Greedfall.
Maybe like all the other people you encounter who have the petrification disease, I think, like, or almost all the ones that you find, like they've long been like they are now like Last of Us, like husk like
things,
like
creatures.
They're referred to as carcasses, like carcasses in the game. They are weak to fire, and so right now you kill most things, and most of the other humans you meet out in the world, most of them are stalkers, kind of like hunters in Bloodborne, and you end up having to fight them too. Some of them know you're a puppet. Some of them are just mad themselves. Like the owl doctor, he's like, oh, like you're alive. I must like he's like, it's better to die now than die by the petrification disease. I must administer medicine or whatever, like to use swiftly or whatever, and he tries to kill you. Um, but and then you eventually meet up with, um, and so like the factions you had, like there was members of the church, there was those who built and worked puppets like Geppetto, Vanini, etc. People who worked on that, and then there was this group of alchemists. Um, and the whole reason the alchemists are there is because of this power, this magical ergo, which basically is like we had an old mine, it was full of this stuff, we didn't understand it, and then we found out we could use it to basically make awesome power. And
It
to
worked out well then.
well, and to
As it always does in every story. We found power and it turns out bad.
Yeah. Well, to skip to the kind of late game revelation, ergo actually is the concentrated essence of the thoughts and emotions of people who actually died from the petrification disease.
Okay.
Like yes, like I'm sure I'm missing a couple of steps like in that thing.
It's a fantasy horror action third person fighting game. I'm pretty sure there's a logic leap in there somewhere that I'm going to excuse.
Oh, yeah, and it's also based on Bloodborne, so really you have to watch a bunch of theories explained videos to actually totally understand what the hell is going on.
Actually, to Lies of P's credit, unless you're like, no, I want to dig through all these musty tomes and item descriptions on my own. Lies of P actually will like sit you down
and tell you a story
and explain to you what's going on. Like yes, you can ignore it if you don't go and talk to some of these individuals with stuff, but you were encouraged to for either quests or other things that you found or whatever. And for I'm going to branch into quality of life things that Lies of P does. On your warp map, if there is something new that has popped up because of something you've done, there will be a little asterisk on a warp area. Like maybe you found like a piece for completion of a puzzle or a like a mission or quest. It will let you know because it'll let you know like, oh, there's something of note. They don't like handhold you and put a marker on your map and that you follow it. But now they'll say, okay, in the chapter 9 area, there is now something of note that was not there before. And when you're going to warp back to the hotel, it'll have little icons of the different people like NPCs who are at the hotel. It'll have icons of people who there's something that of note worthy to go talk to them about. So like say you get the Vanini Works collection, like it's basically to add different products to one of the shops that you can access. You may like that could have been an hour and a half ago that you got that and you haven't been back to the hotel. It'll just have a little head icon of like, oh, you can go talk to Polyandra, and like there's something to do with Polyandra, and you'll be like, oh yeah, the box, nice. And so you don't miss things that many other Soulsborne games it would be very easy to miss if you're not just sitting there like, all right, I did one thing, now go talk to every single NPC to see if they react to this new item I have. That's a quality of life thing.
So in terms of imitation being the sincerest form of flattery,
it's a very imitating game.
Yeah. How much does it borrow?
I would say this is, I would say, the game that has borrowed the most, but then they also made the most of what they borrowed.
That's what I was going to ask you next. Is it kind of it's okay to take an idea from someone else, but then it's another thing to turn their idea into something that's worthwhile for you.
Yeah, I believe that is the case, and because because tons of people have borrowed bonfires, Estus flasks, other things like that. Um, you know, bosses you have to hug their butts and smack them around or whatever. But um, the I believe that especially with their visuals, they're like, okay, because you can't say like, oh, things are decrepit and bloody and oily and stuff like that. You stole our thing. Like, no, like they take their own setting and run with it. Like they didn't do a carbon copy of like, all right, we're gonna take gothic architecture of Bloodborne and put a different coat of paint on it. They're like, no, we're gonna take like 1908 Paris or 1908 insert well-developed Dutch city or something like that, and we're gonna make this our setting. Um, and so like that's one thing. The stuff with the weapon system, they definitely copied the homework for Souls and Bloodborne, but then they took their own very cool spin on it, and of like the whole weapon disassembling and create new weapons and stuff like that is very different. Like that is a cool side evolution of Bloodborne trick weapons, because Bloodborne trick weapons are cool. Like they're one of the coolest things that like From has made. But
Yeah, I'll take your word for it because I'm never playing it.
So I got
that's fine. Yeah.
So I got one more question for you, and then we're gonna move on really quick. I played the demo, so I've not played the full game.
Yes.
The one complaint I had about this title was Bloodborne's movement and Bloodborne's dodging is so tight. Like, it is very precise, and it feels very weighted. And this is probably one of my biggest complaints about the Souls games that are not Bloodborne, is they are very floaty. They don't feel they just feel like when I take a step back, it's not like a tight step back, it's like a giant step back. Or if they roll, it's like a giant roll that rolls like 40 feet instead of maybe like 20 feet. I feel like Liza P veered more to the Soul side when it came to dodging than on the Bloodborne side, which I'm going to say Bloodborne's dodging is what I prefer. Did you feel that same way? Or did you...
Yeah. Here is something very interesting, because you bring that up. People brought that up from the demo. The movement and dodging from the demo is different from patch 1.0.
Okay, I was wondering about that. I was thinking I wonder if they changed it.
From 1.0. And then before, so here was the kind of thing or whatever, like the dodging was improved on the launch of the game. And something you would not have seen because you couldn't progress that far in the demo is that actually, because you have like normal level ups of like just numbers of levels, but then you have a special tree that uses quartz where you're activating different parts of your P organ. It's a heart. It's a mechanical heart. But as you upgrade different parts of it, it actually gives you unique, special new abilities. And in that tree, they add a lot of things. They add a double dodge, so you can do a light second dodge in the middle of your first dodge. It adds the ability to dodge on the ground, so like a rising tech, like to get out of the way of things that are like about to try and smash you. Like if you've been smashed to the ground, you can now roll out of that way. There are amulets that actually allow you to roll with no stamina at all. Like you can be out of stamina and you can keep rolling.
Okay.
So there in those upgrades, there's like those things like rising dodge from the ground. You have to put in like 2 or 3 pieces of material to actually fully unlock that. And those things themselves, you can add like more damage reduction while dodging, like less stamina used. So you can actually build full Bloodborne by about like halfway into the game. You can.
Okay.
So you like, and because the way Liza P actually wants you to do all 3 of the things of different Souls games. It wants you to dodge at the right time. It wants you to block at the right time, and it wants you to parry at the right time. Like it's asking all 3 of like the different Souls Souls Born core mechanics all at once, and it took me a while to get that. And I had to watch a video, and once I watched that video, it made more sense to me. They were like, why Lies of P blocking doesn't feel the way you think it is. And the way it was explained was like, in Souls, when you're trying to do like your perfect parries and stuff like that, it's based off of the animation of the attacking creature.
Mm-hmm.
In Lies of P, it's actually based off of the animation and timing of your block. So like in Souls, you're just like used to like spamming parry or spamming block to be able to just grab it. But in Lies of P, you actually have to have the block on and held for like just a fraction of a second. You can't just tap. Like,
Oh,
and
I
so
see.
there's
Okay.
so there's like there's and when you and so it is counterintuitive to a lot of the muscle memory of Soulsborne players. But thank you for bringing up the dodge and stuff like that, because this moves into the quality of life that the company or that NeoWiz is willing to do. They changed stuff from the demo to 1.0, and then in 1.2 they did balances for a couple of bosses and for some other stuff, and then they're going to do a November patch where they actually are tweaking some of the beginning stats, like so that, because they're like, people felt that the early game was a bit too punishing. Like you didn't have enough
Yeah,
like
I'd agree.
actual stats
Playing the
in the
demo,
very
it
beginning.
felt very punishing in the beginning.
Correct.
Well,
Yeah.
those
And
those wankers who fell off at the beginning should get good.
Oh, boo-hoo,
well,
shut up.
well, like there's people who beat it on 1.0. I was not one of them. There's people who beat it on 1.2. That's where I beat it. Now there's going to be 1.3, which will be different. But NeoWiz is like, no, we're taking feedback because we want it to feel good to play this game. So, and they specifically called out that because of the way a couple of those enemies work, especially there's like this shovel wielding puppet in the swamps and in the Panini works, that like if you are stuck on the ground, he literally, like, you can't get up in time, and
He
he will
pounds
just
you to death.
pound you to death. They're like, we actually will add. They're like, we're shift the rising attack that you normally would have, or the rising dodge. It will now be innate to the character. So they're like, so they're adding that to the default toolkit of the player. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. I'm like, that's awesome, because like I use that, but I would love to have those resources to put onto one of the other cool things. And so they're taking feedback, because this is their first foray into here. They don't have a set in stone of this is how you must play it. They're like, they're
Well,
willing to take feedback.
I think
And
them
so,
selling 1 million copies might have something to do with it as well.
And have an announced
correct.
sequel.
But they already sold the 1 million copies, but they're not like, well, we got your money. They're like, no, all right, we're gonna spend time and resources on adjusting some of these things so that the next 500,000 people who play, or the next million who play.
With all due respect, Mikey, I think you're giving them a little too much credit. That's just standard in
What?
video game development 101 right now. Is you always, if you sell well, you always patch it, because one, it's going to make the player user experience better. They're going to tell more people about it. Like, if it didn't sell well and then they still worked on it and patched it, I would then give them a little more credit than if selling well and then just patching it. So like, I love that they're doing it. I love you're excited about it. I'm not sold on the energy.
But I'm like, no, but I'm saying like, Bloodborne didn't get any balance patches. The only thing it got was exploit removals.
But that's because it's a Souls game from software.
It's from software. Also,
play the game or fuck you.
Bloodborne sold amazingly, or whatever. And
I think also
like,
the argument. I think the argument also is that was like 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Devs are way more inclined to patch a title today.
Even if it is more common practice, I'm still glad that they do it. And the director or whatever, like, made a fun like video where he was wearing one of the Black Brotherhood like masks or whatever, like to like thank you for like doing. He's like, and this is like our roadmap going forward with different stuff. And I'm to wrap it up. Lies of P is I enjoyed it so much because I love classic literature. I love different takes on classic literature. They've already hinted at two different properties that they are going to incorporate either via DLC or the sequel, and that is Peter Pan and the Wizard of Oz are are two things that they
I could imagine the Tin Man, the Lion, and the
yeah,
Scarecrow as
like
boss battles.
yeah, all that
That'd
stuff.
be kind of
I
cool.
mean, the Wizard of Oz stuff is baked into the game. It's not just a hint that they talked about. It's like it's
Giant
part of
Dorothy with a giant Toto as a
it's
boss
it, it,
battle.
it's well, it's part of the stinger of beating the game. Like he's like, all right, yeah, oh yeah, when I get back, I'm like I'm going to find her. I'm going to find Dorothy. And then you like pan down, you look and see like on a you see a the cover like the little corner of a cover of a book on the desk that the guy was talking next to, and it's one of the Wizard of Oz books or something like that.
Cool.
So
Is,
and then
is
you
there any
see
licensing issues around that?
no, that's all public domain.
I think
Peter
it's. I
Pan,
think yeah.
Wizard
Peter
of
Pan
Oz.
and Wizard of.
Peter Pan would be, but I was thinking about Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I think
No,
Wizard of
yeah,
Oz is public domain.
yep, it's public domain. Yep, there's a lot of rich history for that. But my closing thoughts on it is that I am so happy to have a non-From studio that I am excited to see. I was pleased with their product. I would give it an 8.5 to a 9. I would give it an 8.5 to a 9. Um, and some of those, like, there's a fluctuation of like 1 point because, like, in a different year, I might have been like, it was too linear, not enough exploration. But like in this year, I was like, I actually loved that it was fairly linear. So that's why I'm gonna allow the fluctuation because yeah.
Well, it's your own scoring scale because we're not prescribing one to you, so you can give it whatever
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah.
You can change
Okay,
it year on year.
out of 10, I would give it an 8.5 to a 9.
All right.
And I'll give it the 9. I'll give it the 9. But I am so excited to see another studio attempting to do From Software stuff and succeeding this well, and that they are committed to pursuing similar games like in the future. So like I like NeoWiz will be like one of those studios where like at a Sony or a Microsoft press conference, if it's like world premiere and you see like NeoWiz, I'll be like, ooh, what's coming next? Whereas I haven't had very many studios that I've had that level of excitement for in a long time. I'm glad to have another one, especially in this genre. So
Awesome. Well, I'll do mine really quick. I could do this in 10 minutes. I've been playing Spider-Man 2, y'all.
oh, sorry. All I was going to say is that for me to finish, I did do a little bit of farming. It took me, I rolled credits at 53 hours on Lies of P.
It's much
And
bigger than I thought.
You definitely could, what?
Oh, it's much bigger than I thought.
Yeah, no, like you definitely could wrap it up in about, I'd say 35.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. It was
Like,
around more.
Yeah, but that's still longer than I thought it would be. Because like Steel Rising is like what, like a 20-hour game, something like
I
that.
have no idea.
I don't put it to the standard of Steel Rising.
But yes, it's for a non-open world Souls variant or whatever. Like I was surprised at how long it was for their first foray into that realm, and I'm excited to see what they do next. So
Nice. Spider-Man 2, it's really good. It's really, really good. I would recommend play in performance mode. The quality's better. Even though there is like a visual, there's a fidelity mode, I didn't like it as much on, at least on my TV. It didn't work as well as I did put it on performance mode. Also, it helped me with combat, a shoot ton.
do they have the built-in like 4 different modes like they added to Miles Morales, or is it just 2?
They have technically, they have two modes, but the third optional mode. So like they have performance, fidelity, and then if you have a, I think it's like at 80 hertz, you can have it run at 80 hertz. on your television
So
or your
if you have a
monitor.
VRR TV,
I have
like,
no idea. That's a little outside my domain.
okay.
I didn't dig in
Well,
that
'cause-
much into
yeah,
it.
for
be right
Miles
back.
Morales, and I think Ratchet and Clank actually, they, because it was originally like performance and quality,
Hmm.
and then they added a like ray tracing performance mode. So it's like it's still trying to be performance, but they added some ray tracing in.
Oh,
So it was like
so currently the game, regardless of performance or fidelity, there is always ray tracing. The
okay,
difference is there is some ray tracing turned off in performance mode. In
yeah,
fidelity, you have full ray tracing. Also, the city density is more dense in fidelity, and then they also said the hair looks better in
gotcha. Okay,
fidelity.
so they baked in some of their after, like not aftermarket, but their post launch options. They baked them into the default options. So okay,
Yeah, they just made them. I think they just simplified it. Basically, is what they
all
did.
ray tracing all the time. Always 96.1.
Yeah, so it's good. It's really good. Combat solid. They added kind of a power cooldown wheel ability for each of the Spider-Man, and it works really well. I first wasn't using it, and then I started to use it, and then I couldn't stop using it because it was so much fun. I also used a lot more of the tech in the combat. I never used the tech in the last game, and I started to kind of like switch between near the end of the game, especially once I started to upgrade everything. Basically, I upgraded all the tech, and then I upgraded all my powers for each of the Spider-Men, and I just was constantly flipping between the two. It felt good for the most part. The parry system's not bad. For some reason, I feel like I have to constantly, you talked about tapping until you get it. That's what I felt like I was doing in Spider-Man, because I felt like the timing was a little off a little bit. And probably my only complaint is they do colors to signify what kind of dodge you need to do, whether it's a full dodge, whether you can parry it, or whether it's just a like get the hell out of the way. The problem is it'll start as one color and then last minute flip to another color. And I get the intent to say like, hey, someone's attacking you, and then last minute, this is what the attack is. Make your decision quickly.
It's going
However,
from like yellow to red or
right.
something like that.
Well, like it's regular color of saying, "Hey, I'm attacking you," and then it'll change to the color of what you need to do.
Okay, so it's just the like the warning of like you are being attacked, and then at the end it's like, oh, it's actually a special attack.
Yeah, what kind of attack will it be? So the issue I came into that was,
Yeah, you got your pop. Nice.
nice Halloween candy. So the tricky part about that was, it would happen sometimes too last minute, and I really couldn't tell, because some of the moveset, they start out with one move and then they switch to another moveset, but they can switch to like 3 different kinds. So you really don't know. And I try to anticipate it so quickly that sometimes I anticipate too fast by hitting the wrong button. So like that was my only frustration with the combat. It wasn't a big deal to me in the end. Like it didn't ruin my experience.
Is it different attacks, or is it different like stances, like a la the what was the PlayStation Samurai game,
Ghost of
or
Tsushima?
Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, no, it's not a stance. It's like literally it's
Okay.
just an animation that they start doing an attack, and then it'll choose between 3 different kinds that they'll flip to.
Gotcha.
And you just can't, sometimes you can't tell in time the
It's
difference.
it's not like wind beats rock
No,
beats.
no.
Gotcha.
Not
Okay.
really. So yeah, that was the thing. Traversal is so fun. I never thought they could make the traversal more fun. The crazy part is I like looked it up, and basically you're moving 3 times faster than you did in the original game, and you
With the
feel like,
wingsuit.
without the wingsuit, you can move. You actually, I looked up a video because I heard this discussion on Game Face between Matt and Shane. Shane being like, "You move so much faster in the wingsuit." Someone raced to themselves with using only wingsuit and only using web slinging. Web slinging won. Like but it won by like 0.3 seconds. It's like it's pretty even. You can
It's
get
comparable.
It's comparable. You can get really fast either way you go. But the speed, you just feel it. Like it's almost to the point I don't think I can go back to 2018 and play it because it'll feel so slow. And I
So it's like a
love the speed on this.
so it's like a Doom 2016 Doom Eternal thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And they can only do it because of the fast loading. Like the SSD allows them to load the levels faster, which allows the player to move faster. The traversal's a lot of fun. To be honest, I did not use fast travel until near the last fourth of the game, maybe, because I was just like,
to clean up some stuff.
yeah. And I think the cool part of the fast travel is not only it's so seamless. The other portion of the fast travel system is that usually when you fast travel somewhere, you're stagnant. You just stay there. You're just like in the position and then you move. This one, the player, like, you're either wingsuiting or you're swinging, and just the momentum is there. And all of a sudden you're just feeling like you're picking up where you left off. It's kind of crazy. It's very, it feels really good because I just love that. I feel like it's as if I was not fast traveling at all. It was just, I swung there and I'm like, oh, and I'm going to keep swinging. Cool. Or I'm going to keep gliding or whatever I want to do. And it was just so, like, it was not only that I moved to that location very quickly because I was already in web slinging or I was in gliding, that I felt faster to be able to get to the place I wanted to get the thing I wanted to get done. It's like your example of like how much time difference. It wasn't 40 seconds. It was 3 seconds. It's load, swing, boom, I'm in the spot. Yeah. Really effective, really efficient, instead of just like landing and just walking up to the person. Just feels a little weird. This one, it felt natural. Amazing.
I heard someone mention something that, like, for me, I don't know if it's a positive, because they're like the map fills out with side objectives and stuff like that more slowly and organically over the game.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. That's actually my next.
Okay. All I was gonna say is, like, for me, I'm like, well, I don't know if I like that, only because the way my brain works is like, like, find a section of the map, clear it out. It's like I would have nights like I'm doing only collectibles tonight, like collectibles and races and stuff like that. Like, then I will progress story tomorrow. Like, I'm like, like Lower Manhattan is clean, now I may progress.
Well, I think so, like, I'm similar to you in that aspect, and I actually love this. I absolutely love this because what happens is they piecemeal you side quests as you go throughout the story. So, like, you'll start the story and all of a sudden they'll give you, like, here's a chunk of side quests you want to do. And then here's maybe another chunk. They usually give you like 2 chunks at a time, which feels digestible and being able to be accomplishable without leaving the main story for too long. But also the side stuff is super rewarding because there's always something surprising, special. There's always something story attached to it or a side story attached to it. It's never, the only time that, like, it feels meaningless is like the ones where crime is happening, go stop the crime. But like if you're doing an actual side mission or a side quest, or even like what you think is a collectible side quest is actually going to give you a reward in the end of some kind of story. Nice. It's very rewarding. And so it actually motivates me more to do it. And so, like, I'm going and I'm doing all the stuff, and you get through it relatively quick to the point where you're just like, okay, I did the story. Now I do this side stuff. I got some rewarding stuff, a couple of rewarding side stuff, story beats, surprises, or whatever. Now I'm back to the main story. Oh, there's another chunk of time where there's, like, you know, a gap, and they give you another piecemeal of something and another piecemeal of something. And it reminded me of Ghost of Tsushima a lot.
Nice.
Where, not in the aspect of I naturally found it, but once I found it, I wanted to keep doing it and, like, wanted to keep going.
Yeah. Are the quests spider neutral, or are there some bespoke quests?
Depends.
Okay.
Some of them are spider neutral. Yeah. Some of them are specific towards the specific Spider-Man, which is fine because they're really rewarding in the end for that specific.
Yeah, no, I actually wanted to make sure that there was, like, they weren't all spider neutral, because no. Well, Peter's going to handle this way different than Miles would, like, or like Peter might not care about this, but it might hit more home, like it might hit more for Miles a specific side quest. Like,
yes.
For stuff like that. Okay,
and
cool.
for even the spider neutral ones, each Spider-Man has different Fox lines. So, it's just good. It's really good. It's the best Spider-Man game they've made. And It is very much still similar to 2018. So if you're expecting like a whole new experience, I would say this is a refined upgrade to the experience.
So this is where Evan's going to be yelling at whatever screen he's watching this back on, because he does not think this is as good as Miles Morales.
And
he's run into some rather hilarious bugs.
I mean, I've hit a couple bugs, but nothing egregious. I had hit one where I did get a boss stuck. Like I was doing a legit, serious toned boss battle, and because of the ability I used, I knocked the boss into a tree, and I got stuck in the collision, and I couldn't get him out, and I couldn't like target him. I couldn't still hurt him, so I had to restart the checkpoint, which kind of sucked. But for the most part, it'll be interesting to have that talk.
Have you finished it yet?
Yes.
Have you finished it yet? Okay. Here's my question. Does it hit, because do you get any feelings of the same way that people had with God of War 2018 to Ragnarok, where it's like mechanically better, story not as good, or do you like this? Does it like have the good emotional hits and stuff like that? Does it feel as good playing through that as it did the first one? Because like mechanically, yes, they're like everyone's saying like, yes, it's better, it's amazing, it's wonderful, like except for maybe some of the like the tech things you're missing, like Matt's like, oh, you don't have spider bombs or whatever, but it felt like with a lot of these like 1-2s, Doom, God of War, the second one, it was technically better, but people didn't necessarily like the story or where it went as much. How do you feel about that?
Well, first I'd argue that God of War Ragnarok is at least equal, if not better, than its predecessor story-wise. I'll address it really quick.
I'm saying there is a sentiment of that to some people.
No, and I think the reason why it does that, I think the reason why there's a problem with it, and I'll address it because to be honest, it's one of my partial complaints about the story, but I understand the reasoning is, you have the first game, he's a child, and some people are going to find that those child nuances annoying because he's a little kid, and and the children are supposed to be annoying. They nailed it. They nailed the type of like how old he was, how he's supposed to act at that age. This
You're
one
talking
is
about God of War, right?
Yeah, God of War. This one.
Okay.
This
I was like,
yeah,
he wasn't a child. He was a late high school, early college.
Yeah, Ragnarok. He's an adolescent, and so like there are things adolescent children will do that annoys the crap out of people, and for some people they can handle them being little kids, but they can't handle them being like adolescents, and vice versa. So I think some of the argument is they don't like it as much because they don't like the way the kid acts. But that's how the kid would act at that age. So I think I don't like it as much in comparison. Like, I can't stand him. However, it was written well because at that age, I wouldn't be able to stand him anyway. So, like, brilliant.
Understood.
So I think that's what the problem is. But anyway, this one, it's tricky. This one is the story for me. I feel like the side stuff is really good of what story piecemeal, and I even got a couple good surprises. I was like, oh, this is fascinating. I can't wait to see what they do with this. I think I like their take on doing this Venom story. I love that they're trying to do something different, unique, nothing you've seen in the comics before. I like that kind of approach of their Spider-Man is basically like, if you want to experience Spider-Man how you experienced it as a kid, go read the comic, go watch that favorite TV show. We want to make our own Spider-Man and its world and everything. I think it's at least the same. I don't know if it's better though, but I think that's just because a few of the characters, they did a pretty good job of like fleshing them out, but I feel like in an aspect I didn't care as much. But also, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan. So for me, it's not the right... I'm probably not the right one to ask about, like, is the story beats good? The quality is great. The quality is good.
Okay.
It's same as 2018. It's there. I didn't have like touchy moments where I was crying or sad, or like God of War Ragnarok or God of War. Those story points hit really hard because I think they're pretty universal as well. But
Yeah, the like there was some definitely like emotional hits in the first Spider-Man, and a lot of that I believe comes from because you are following one person through the whole thing, and maybe it's not a bad thing, but it's a different thing that Spider-Man 2, you have a lot of good material, but you still have to split your time between two individuals or 2 point whatever individuals, at least two main individuals. So you're not getting a full like 25, 30 hours of just Peter or a full 25, 30 hours of just Miles. You're getting approximately 15 hours split each.
I've got one really important question, and that is: does Venom appear if you say his name 3 times into a mirror?
If you hit a certain part of the game and you say it 3 times in a mirror, he will appear in the game.
Wait.
What?
Never mind. I forgot the actor, so the joke is ruined.
Oh, gotcha. To answer your question,
does Tom Hardy appear if you say Venom 3 times?
It's not fair. To answer your question, though, I feel like they did a good job of balancing between the two, because yet they are separate stories, but yet at the same time, it does come together really well, and it really tells an overarching story between the two. That they have separate stories, however, they combine to make one story. And I think that is good writing. They did a really good job with that. And I think even some of the side stuff of their own personal stories that they're dealing with are very unique, but also really complement each other so well. I do have to give one shout out. They did, so there's a hard of hearing individual, Haley, in the game. And sign language is a very predominant thing, including text to speech also is in that game too, of when he gets a text from her, it'll read it to him via text to speech, which is super cool. But she has her own side quest, and is probably one of my favorite representations of people with disabilities I've ever seen in a video game, hands down.
Nice.
It is phenomenal. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's super great.
Good.
But
awesome.
Please,
I do intend to play this game before the end of the year.
When you play it, I just recommend playing all the side missions, but that one specifically is so worth your time, and it's very unique, and I think they nailed it.
Yeah, I think the first Spider-Man was my first platinum, and then God of War was my second, or vice versa, whichever came out first. I platinumed all of these big hitters that I've played. So hopefully, I don't know if I'll platinum Miles Morales just because I'm like want to get to 2.
Yeah.
But I do like their approaches on that. I also liked how I did the platinums for both God of War 1 and Spider-Man 1, so that it wasn't just like, oh, and finish up this race or whatever for your last collectible or whatever. My God of War platinum and actually for Ragnarok, for the first one, it was when I went back to the house. Like, I did everything but go back to the house.
Yeah.
So the platinum triggered with that end scene.
Nice.
And
cool.
For Spider-Man, my platinum triggered when I visited Uncle Ben's grave.
Ah, cool. Okay.
So I was able to get stuff like all taken care of or whatever, and for Ragnarok, my platinum triggered at Brock's funeral.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool.
So I was like, good, like I can, on that very powerful either cliffhanger or emotional beat, I can put the controller down and be done.
Yeah. I think you'll get something similar with this one. I did not get the platinum yet. I think I'm like, just by not trying to get the platinum, just by doing everything because I wanted to do everything, I think I'm like 85%.
Nice.
So I only have a couple. I know I have one side thing I didn't do, but I watched what it was later, just because that one was a little more difficult to complete because it's not on your map, but that's okay. But yeah,
The first Spider-Man, I almost messed myself up, or I made it harder for myself because I spent all my resources on getting all the suits, and that's not one of the requirements for the first platinum. I'm like, how is
uh,
like it was it
I
was
will
it was get
say
all the upgrades. It
if
was get
I
all the upgrades, not get all the suits. So I was like scrambling for higher end resources at the end.
Yeah, I'll say by doing all the side missions, I was able to unlock all the suits, all its permutations, unlock all my abilities, and upgrade all my gear to 100% before the final boss. And I think that's the last thing I wanted to cover is suits. It's amazing. I love they added variations. So like it's not only you get a suit, but most of the suits have variation of color choices if you want to. So like for the Spider-Man starting suit, I instead of doing a blue accent with his suit, I did black. And then with Miles, I didn't actually go with the standard outfit. I went with this really cool white outfit that he did. And I was able, the only jarring thing is trying to do some of those suits and play the game and like get in the story and feel like it's legit. So if I
Yeah.
did it a second playthrough, I probably would try one of the cooler suits. But it's amazing. It's amazing. So I highly would
I
recommend
tried
it
to
to
do
anyone.
serious emotional beats while wearing the Spider Punk suit.
Right,
Doesn't
exactly.
doesn't hit exactly the same way.
Yeah, it's also just like, how did you get this gear? It does not make sense in the world that you have enough money to own this kind of suit. But yeah, it's amazing. So I'd highly recommend it. So
Two very quick things.
yeah, go ahead.
Evan thinks the platinum for Spider-Man 2 is too easy.
I think that's starting to become the standard, Evan. I think Evan's now just complaining to complain because, to be honest, I think the platinum is starting in at least Sony first party games I've noticed. They have been becoming more easily achievable than in the
Um,
past.
the well here
Well,
this
I'm sorry. One thing, easily achievable on basically, I think they want you to be able to achieve it on one playthrough.
yes, that is definitely the biggest change that I've seen is it is almost impossible to miss a platinum. Like they either allow you to do stuff out in the world after you've rolled credits, or like yeah, there's some way to be.
I don't. If that was pain, don't. If you're podcasting from a desk, don't hit your knee into the desk.
Did you hit your
No, it
knee?
wasn't. No, it wasn't the knee. I was like rocking my chair back and forth, and it lifted up one of the front like rolly wheels, and my foot slipped underneath it, and then I
Oh,
just
oh yeah, I see.
leaned down the weight of me and my son on a office chair on my toes.
Ouchie.
Um.
Well, there should be an achievement for that. Um,
What's
What I was saying is that I do believe that Spider-Man 1 was like you still had to pursue it, but it was a fairly easy platinum because like you didn't have to get all the suits. You didn't have to get platinum like or
the
on every
gold on every single
on
challenge.
every single challenge. I think you only had to get like the second to top one. Like you had to do everything, but you didn't have to like robotic gamer every single thing.
I think
I
they.
would
Oh, sorry.
God of War 1 and God of War Ragnarok, you had to work for those platinums. You had to like those like the Valkyrie Queen and then the Valkyrie Queen reprised and stuff like that. Those were hard. Those were hard things to do. I would not call them easy. Yes, you could still do them in one playthrough, but I felt I earned those platinums.
What was your second question, Keith?
So the second part is it better than Starfield?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This game puts quality of life into the future, not in 10 years ago. So no, it's amazing. No pun intended. It's amazing. It's an amazing Spider-Man game.
But
It's an easy 10 out of 10 for me. Not that like, oh, it's the best game ever made, but it's, if you're asking for high quality first party title, not first party, but high quality like open world action games with good story, great animation, like quality, you can't go wrong.
Nice.
Like an easy
Yeah,
recommend to anyone.
I'll get this one done before the end of the year. This one will probably get done. This one will get done before Tears of the Kingdom gets done.
Oh, I
Like,
have to still go back to that.
yeah, like I have the last main, like, I don't know, creature boss, like the last main one of four things to get. Like I went on vacation in July. Like I'd been playing it like 4 hours a night before I went on vacation, and then I'm like, no, I'm not going to take my Switch. I'm just going to go on vacation and be on vacation. And then when I came back, I'm like, I cannot play this. Like I have not been able to play it since I returned in July. I'm like, ah.
I mean, to be
So
honest,
I'm
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 regretting trying to play
I'm
this
gonna
game
be
again.
yeah. I'm going to like I'm going to beeline the rest. I'm like I'll clear out the Underdark, but I'm not going to do every like yeah. I want it done so it can be a product of 2023 and I can be finished with it. Like that's mostly why I'm going to finish it. Sorry, Nintendo, you don't actually have hooks in me for that.
That's just disgraceful. Tears of the Kingdom is the equally greatest video game of all time, sitting on equal status with Breath of the Wild.
And Baldur's Gate 3.
To be honest, I would not be shocked if this game is not in talks for Game of the Year. Like it might be nominated, but it's probably not going to be in the conversation for Game of the Year.
Which Spider-Man?
No,
Treats in the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom.
I
don't think it's hit the.
Isn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just don't think it hit the zeitgeist or like. It was in conversations for like 2 weeks, and I haven't heard a peep of it ever since.
Well, I'm sure we can save that for a future episode because
yeah.
we'll have a Game of the Game Awards coming up.
Yeah.
Don't you mean the Mitch wins the Mitch Awards?
Well, that's happened the last few times, but there's always a chance that someone else can steal your crown.
Undefeated 3-time champion.
Unlike the Chicago Bears.
I would take that over this Game of the Game Awards.
I didn't want you to feel too good about yourself, so I thought I'd throw that in there. And I think that wraps it up quite nicely. Spider-Man is better than Starfield. I know I've not even played it, and I'd probably agree with you.
And what do we say?
And on that note, I was trying to say treats in the kitchen, but it came out treats in the kingdom.
Oh,
That didn't work for me.
oh, there you go. That'll do her.
It ran too long. It was a good one, but the question I like